I remember vividly how my parents basically turned their backs on me when I was expecting my son, and my husband was diagnosed with lupus. They made it a point to say that neither he nor our baby was part of their family, which was painfully shocking to me since I was in a vulnerable state, and we all know how important family support can be at such a time. Then, in a bizarre twist, 3 years later, those same parents reappeared at my doorstep, wanting to step in and act like doting grandparents. The whole situation left me in disbelief. Their sudden decision to come back into our lives was both confusing and infuriating, because they had made their stance crystal clear once before, and it was a stance that broke my heart. 3 years back, I made the tough, but necessary decision to distance myself entirely from my parents, and the main reason was that it became more obvious than ever that my sister was their sole priority. Nothing else mattered to them, not me, not my husband, and not even their own grandson who was still an infant. Let me explain the history in more detail. It started when I was in my second trimester of pregnancy, and we found out that my husband had lupus. For quite some time, nearly a year, he had been suffering from unusual symptoms, so we kept going to the hospital, doing test after test, only to discover that his body was actually fighting itself. Learning that he had this autoimmune disease felt like the rug was pulled out from under us. We were about to become parents, and this diagnosis introduced a new layer of challenges we never expected. Naturally, at a moment like that, I turned to my parents for emotional and practical support. They originally told me that they would help with my pregnancy and later with the baby, once our child was born. On top of that, my in-laws had already stepped up as well, which was extremely comforting. However, the fact that my parents volunteered to pitch in was a big deal to me, because our relationship before then hadn't exactly been close or pleasant. We started to reconnect a bit after my sister moved away following her marriage 7 years ago, only because my parents found themselves somewhat lonely and realized I existed, too. Before she left, my sister was always in the spotlight, the proverbial golden child. I would be overlooked while they placed her on a pedestal. But once she moved out, she got busy with her new life and didn't really check in on them, so they seemed to turn to me. I thought this would finally be the bridge we needed to form a better bond. I really let myself hope that this would be a turning point, that maybe we could operate as a normal, supportive family for once. But those hopes were crushed the moment my sister returned 2 months after my baby boy was born. She announced she was divorcing her husband because he had been cheating on her. Immediately,